Among all the qualities, consistency is the one that determines a world-class player. The footballers we would like to tell you about today are those who hadn't been at their best lately but managed to show the world that they are still more than fit to play for their clubs as they rediscovered their form this season. And if you enjoy our videos, feel free to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss the next one. But before we go on, we'd like to ask you a question. Who scored more goals in his debut Premier League season? Robin van Persie, Fernando Torres, Luis Suarez, Sergio Aguero? Please leave your answers in the comments and get ready for watching. Nathan Ake, Manuel Akanji and Jack Grealish. After Manchester City sold Alexander Zinchenko, Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus, they were expected to become a much weaker side. Though Josep Guardiola got himself a new world-class striker in the face of Erling Haaland, these players were familiar with the manager's demands and always ready to make an impact from the bench. But in the end, the decision to part ways with them was the right thing to do, as the 2022 transfer campaign only made City stronger, and their results now speak for themselves. Their new signings have been among the reasons for such a solid campaign, as all three of them have leveled up their performance this season. Let's start with Nathan Ake, the Dutchman. He could have reunited with Chelsea as the Blues saw him as a replacement for Antonio Rudiger. But Man City's demands were too much for Chelsea, so Nathan had to stay. Throughout his first two seasons at the Etihad, Ake had to settle for a rotational player's role, mostly due to his injuries. But this season was when the Dutchman at last made a big step forward, as his versatility made him such an asset to the team, both as a left centre-back in a three-at-the-back formation and on the left. Not only Nathan's qualities added variety to Man City's football, but his solid defending made him nearly impossible to dribble past. Manuel Akanji, another defender, was signed from Borussia Dortmund for only €17.5 million last summer. While he was expected to be no more than a backup option for Aymeric Laporte, Manuel needed only one chance in the first team to impress Guardiola so that the manager would pick him ahead of his more renowned teammate. While at Dortmund, Akanji was never considered the most solid of defenders. Despite his age, many still saw him as a promising player, yet to reach his potential. Probably it was Borussia's over-adventurous approach that was holding him back, as once Akanji joined City, he proved himself to be a world-class defender. Last summer, the citizens broke the Premier League transfer record as they signed Jack Grealish for €117 million. Much was expected from the former Aston Villa leader, one of the best Premier League attackers, but in reality, his first season at City was disappointing, to say the least, as Jack only made 3 goal contributions. After such a grave start though, Jack still managed to make a step forward in his second season at Etihad. While the Englishman would often be pretty much useless last season, as he clearly lacked confidence, he finally leveled up his performance and scored 5 goals in addition to his 7 Premier League assists. Though you will never call these numbers mind-blowing, it's not like they fully reflect the impact he has been making. Jack Grealish's dribbling has improved significantly, allowing him to be even more effective with his runs, through balls and off-the-ball movement. Alexis Sanchez. Even though Alexis could still compete for a place in the first 11 at Inter, the Chilean decided to leave the club last summer. The Nerazzurri board would have probably tried to keep the striker, but the thing is that he was the highest paid player at the club, so his contract was terminated, and Alexis joined Marseille as a free agent. It might have looked as though the Chilean's career was approaching its end, but the 34-year-old striker had other plans. This season he scored 14 goals and made 3 assists in League One, as after many years he once again became a key player for his side. All in all, it was the best season for Alexis since his Arsenal days, when he scored 24 Premier League goals and made 11 assists. As for his Marseille contract, it is about to run out this summer, and while the club would love to keep the player, Alexis is considering changing clubs once again and moving to PSG or back to Arsenal. In any case, Alexis Sanchez has successfully proved himself to be fit for top-flight football and will most likely stay in Europe, though we're yet to know what club he will be playing for next season. Ollie Watkins. Since Ollie Watkins moved to Aston Villa from Brentford, he has already finished 3 seasons with 10 or more Premier League goals. The end of last season, as well as the beginning of the current campaign, wasn't the best times for the Englishman though. He had only scored 3 goals and made 2 assists in the league by November, when Unai Emery was appointed manager. But once the Spaniard took over, we saw a completely different player. Ollie Watkins scored 12 goals and made 2 assists in 12 Premier League matches from late January to mid-April. Though he hasn't scored since then, that remarkable streak showed both the fans and the Villa board that Ollie was not done yet. Now the club is about to offer Watkins a new contract with a salary that will make him one of the highest paid players at Aston Villa. At the same time, Arsenal have put an eye on the Englishman, but they will surely have to offer a decent sum for the Englishman, as the Villains would rather keep their key player. Samuel Umtiti. Samuel last years at Barcelona were those he would rather forget, as the Frenchman was still suffering from his knee injury consequences. Once a key centre-back, both for the club and for France, Umtiti had to settle for a backup player role and in the end was loaned out to Lecce last summer. Few expected that loan move to be any good for Samuel. However, Umtiti's spell in Italy helped him regain his form, become a leading defender for Lecce and help his side stay up. Though it's not like Samuel is now back to his prime, he was still way better than his last hopeless seasons at Barca. Despite his Lecce performance, the Frenchman is still not a part of Barcelona's plans, as the Blaugrana would rather sell him, while Umtiti in turn would rather not join a Serie A outsider. Among the Frenchman's options are Inter, a much stronger Italian side, and his former club Lyon, though the French club's interest has not yet been confirmed. Marcus Thuram. The 21-22 season was a disaster for Marcus Thuram, as he only scored 3 goals for Borussia Mönchengladbach in the Bundesliga. He suffered 4 different injuries throughout that season and had to miss 12 games because of them. That's why preseason preparation was so important for Thuram last summer, as he needed to bring back his form and do much better. And his hard work on the training ground did pay off, as the Frenchman scored 10 goals before the World Cup break, which made him the second best Bundesliga goalscorer. Didier Deschamps, the French manager, couldn't help but notice Marcus being on fire, so the striker was included in France's World Cup squad and later made 2 assists on their way to the World Cup silver. After the tournament ended, Thuram had an opportunity to leave Borussia for a bigger club, as he only had 6 months left on his contract. But the Frenchman's decision was to stay so that he wouldn't need to adapt to a new league mid-season. That looked like a reasonable decision, but probably was a wrong move, as Thuram has only scored 3 goals since then. But nevertheless, his fantastic run of form at the beginning of the season made many big clubs consider signing the Frenchman, who's going to be available as a free agent. As for now, Inter are believed to be his first choice option, but it's too early to tell, as the situation may change at any moment. Donyell Malen. The Dutchman's 2 assists at Euro 2020 made a good addition to his overall impressive performance, which made him noticed and signed by Borussia Dortmund. Though it was supposed to be a signing for the future, Donyell Malen's first postseason with 5 goals and 3 assists in the Bundesliga made many Borussia fans think of him as a total waste. Fortunately though, the new head coach Edin Terzic managed to change it all for the striker. After a rough start of the season hampered by his injury, Malen managed to catch up and make a real breakthrough, despite having been written off by many. As a result, the Dutchman has scored 8 goals and made 5 assists in 9 Bundesliga appearances since late March, while his team just barely missed their chance to win the title for the first time since 2012. Malen's form ended up being an integral part of the team's solid season, as his goals helped Borussia win many crucial points. Donyell Malen is only 24 years old, and his 9 goals and 7 assists in the Bundesliga do bode well for the future. Kepa Arrizabalaga. Kepa Arrizabalaga, the most expensive goalkeeper in the history of football, lost his place in the first 11 in the 2021 season, as the newcomer Edouard Mendy was picked ahead of him and helped Chelsea win the Champions League in his debut season. The Blues tried hard to sell or at least loan out Kepa, but his salary was a big obstacle. Last season though, there were a couple of decent games from Kepa, and later at the beginning of this season, Mendy's outrageous performance as well as his injury made the Senegalese lose his place in goal, which meant another chance for Kepa. Arrizabalaga was among the few bright spots for Chelsea throughout their disaster of a season, which ended with the 11th place finish, as he remained the first choice keeper until the end. The Spaniard did look well, and his save percentage serves as a good proof of his solid form. However, the Chelsea board still feel like selling him, as the new manager Mauricio Pochettino would rather have another keeper in his squad, the one we will tell you about the next. And by the way, we have already made a video about the players whose performance was particularly disappointing in the 22-23 season, including many Chelsea footballers, so feel free to watch it once you're done with this one. Andre Onana. The Cameroonian keeper made a name for himself in that very 18-19 season, as Ajax fell just a bit short of making it into the Champions League final. However, for some inexplicable reasons, bigger clubs were reluctant to make an offer for Onana despite their initial interest. And after the keeper got a ban for doping violation, few expected him to ever get signed by a big club. But nevertheless, last summer Andre joined Inter as a free agent and won a place in the first team ahead of the veteran Handanovic. While it looked like a dubious signing at first, the Cameroonian ended up having a very productive season at Giuseppe Meazza. Onana's quality goalkeeping led Inter straight into the Champions League final for the first time since 2010, while the Cameroonian won the Golden Glove with 8 clean sheets to his name. Once again, Onana reminded us about his strength, his footwork, that allows him to keep his composure and break the opponent's pressing with precise passing. As you would expect, such an impressive campaign couldn't help but attract interest, as now Mauricio Pochettino wants Onana to be his first-choice goalkeeper at Chelsea. Rumors say that Inter are ready to let the keeper go for 40 million euros, but their sporting director Giuseppe Marotta made a statement not that long ago, as he said that Onana is going nowhere this summer. So let's see if Chelsea manage to make the Inter bosses change their minds with a more lucrative offer. Alexander Lacazette. Alexander Lacazette's decision to leave Lyon for Arsenal in summer 2017 didn't do any good to his career, though it may have looked like a promising move on paper. Of course, his 44 Premier League goals in 5 seasons don't let us call his Arsenal spell a complete failure, but still, his numbers were way better in Ligue 1. Last year, the 30-year-old Lacazette returned to Lyon as a free agent. As his last season for Arsenal ended with only 4 goals, nobody really expected him to bring back his prime form, but in the end, that is exactly what happened. Alexander did look like the prime version of himself, as he scored 26 goals in Ligue 1, the second best result after the PSG star striker Kylian Mbappé. The 31-year-old Lacazette had his 3rd best season in terms of goals, thus proving all his doubters wrong. Many thought that I was finished. They said I wouldn't make it. They said Lyon made a mistake when they signed me. I wanted to show everyone that the club was right to trust me. As the striker is currently 31 years old, he still has time to take yet another shot at a big club, but we can't tell if it is the right thing to do for Alexander. Khvicha Kvaratskhelia. Last year, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia had to leave Rubin Kazan mid-season as he got back to Georgia to play for Dinamo Batumi. Though the young Georgian had found no success in Russia, it didn't affect Napoli's decision to sign Khvicha. So last summer he joined the Italian side, and that was probably the best signing of that transfer window. Kvaratskhelia started right off the bat and was named Serie A Player of the Month already in August. In the following weeks, he got himself a nickname Kvaradona, as the Georgian got recognized as one of the best dribblers in Europe, while being among the Serie A leading players in terms of chances created and final third passes. So in autumn, the likes of Real Madrid, Manchester City and Liverpool indicated their interest in signing Kvaratskhelia. His first season in Serie A ended with 12 goals and 10 assists, which is a great achievement for a player with no prior top 5 league experience. Now it's going to be incredibly interesting to watch how Kvicha's career unfolds. He's currently on a long-term contract with Napoli, so it's very unlikely that he will leave the club in the upcoming transfer window, unless some club is ready to spend a fortune on him. On the one hand, Kvicha's impact helped Napoli win the league for the first time in 33 years, but on the other hand, he hasn't been at his best in the last few months, so big clubs may as well decide to take their time instead of making a 100 million bid this summer. Marcus Rashford. Last season was an incredibly poor one for the Englishman. He only managed to score 4 goals in the Premier League, which was his worst ever result. Even as a teenager with little to no experience, Marcus Rashford would score at least 5. The striker was well aware of his abysmal performance, so he hardly had any rest last summer, as he was working hard to bring back his goal-scoring touch instead. Under the new manager Erik ten Hag, the Englishman at last rediscovered his form, evolving into one of the deadliest Premier League attackers. Rashford finished the season with 29 goals in all competitions, which made him the best United goalscorer. This campaign ended up being his best one in terms of numbers. Marcus scored 16 goals in the Premier League, which is his second best result after the 1920 season under Solskjaer, when he scored 17. What is more, it was Rashford's goal to win it against Newcastle in the League Cup final and bring Man United their first trophy in 6 years. The Red Devils have already activated the extension clause in Rashford's contract, thus extending it until the end of next season. But Erik ten Hag is now determined to keep the striker for longer, as he sees the 25-year-old Englishman as a key player for the future. Antoine Griezmann. The Frenchman's career went downhill once he left Atletico Madrid in summer 2019. As Griezmann couldn't play his primary position while at Barca, he had to settle for a winger role instead. But even when he played as a striker, Antoine seemed to have lost his former goal-scoring touch and his confidence due to the immense pressure at the new club. In summer 2021, Griezmann's Barcelona spell finally came to an end, as the board admitted their mistake that cost the club €135 million. So the striker was loaned out back to Atletico for 2 seasons, and at first the fans didn't fancy their former striker at all. Antoine's first season at his old club finished with only 3 goals and 4 assists, which made it all look like the striker was actually finished. So when Simeone was deliberately benching Griezmann at the beginning of his season so that his buyout clause doesn't activate, the Frenchman's future looked far from certain. But later the Blaugrana stepped back and reduced the clause from €40 million to 20. Griezmann was signed on a permanent basis, which ended up being a brilliant move for both sides. Griezmann had a fantastic season, bringing back his former self, one of the best strikers in La Liga and in Atletico Madrid's history, while his side finished second ahead of their rivals Real Madrid. Antoine's role on the pitch underwent some changes. He was moved to midfield, but still scored 13 goals and made 14 assists in La Liga, thus becoming the best ever goal scorer for Atletico. It was one of the best seasons Griezmann ever had, and it was the striker's immense desire and motivation that made it possible. Our today's heroes are those who should be proud of themselves and their hard work, which helped them prove they've still got what it takes to play at the highest level. However, they have to keep it up in order not to lose the momentum, and that is surely not an easy task. Dear friends, please let us know in the comments which one of these players impressed you the most with his performance. Thank you for watching and see you soon.